Hey everyone, it's Chris here from Thrive Endurance, and I'm going to help you justify spending a whole bunch of money on a new power meter. So quite often I hear people talk about not needing something like a power meter. I'm not pro enough, I'm not good enough, or I won't look at the information. But those things are not really that important. Um, the more the newer you are to the sport, sometimes the more information you can get from it. It's a bit like having a coach. A lot of people think that it's above their level, but I don't think that that's a relevant thing. What you can gain from it is almost more powerful when you're a beginner or an amateur.
So, what exactly is a power meter? A power meter is a device that is placed somewhere between your legs and the rear tyre of a bike. This gives you a measurement of the power being sent to the wheel. This measurement is often expressed in watts, and sometimes you will see it expressed as a percentage of the weight of the rider, so something like 4 watts per kilo. This style of measurement is important because it removes variables that you will see from winds or hills that can affect your results if you are using average speed for a ride. It's important when doing short intervals that you can set a target an athlete can see instantly, and this is what a power meter does. If you're using a heart rate value that works quite well for longer rides, when you are setting a short interval, the heart rate is too slow to respond and therefore can be almost useless to use over short efforts. Power meters come on almost instantly.
Thrive Endurance is coaching with a difference. Have you ever asked yourself one of these questions? Why is it when I've been training harder, I'm not racing faster? Or is my diet and training healthy and sustainable long term? If so, Thrive Endurance Coaching might be for you, whether it's your first duathlon, a Grand Fondo, or even the big step into ultra distance events. The crew at Thrive Endurance are ready to help you reach your goals. Reach out today on all the socials or our website, thriveendurance.com. So obviously, I think the most important device that you're going to need or use as a triathlete or any sort of um, uh, like athlete, runner, cyclist, anything like that is probably the heart rate monitor. I think that's number one. But once you get into cycling, I really think that you get so much benefit from a power meter that if you said to me, I've only got one today, which one can I take? I'd nearly always tell you to take the power meter, especially as you get more into it with specific efforts and things.
So these days we see three main types of power meters. The crank-based power meter that replaces your normal crank set, and this one will generally measure output from both legs. They're a little bit complicated to install, so you'd need to be an experienced mechanic or use a shop, and it can be a little bit tough to make sure that you get the right one for your bottom bracket. They're all a little bit different. The second one is a pedal-based power meter, so this power meter usually replaces your normal pedals. Obviously, that's a pretty easy to install item. Most people can probably handle that. And they're available in either single leg options or dual leg options, and some are upgradable between them. The third type is what I call crank arm power meters, and this is a power meter that replaces the left side crank arm on your bike, the side without the chain wheels on it. This is obviously a single leg only measurement. Now, when I say single or dual leg, it's exactly how it sounds. The measurement is based off either one leg or both legs. When it's a single leg power meter, it's only measuring the output of one leg and then doubling it to give you an overall value. Now, you might think that that's not going to be the most accurate, and you're right. It will change as you get tired and things like that, but it is generally quite consistent. So over a long enough period of time, most tests seem to show that there's not a great disparity between a dual leg and a single leg in the total output produced. but more importantly, it is super consistent, and that's what you need in power meters. And I will touch on, there is a fourth type in the wheel hub. I'm pretty sure that Power Tap are the only guys that make them now. It's a whole hub that sits inside the wheel, so you generally buy it as a whole wheel and a hub. They were like the gold standard, probably still are really, for consistency and reliability, but they are obviously tied to just one wheel, so you can't have a race wheel and a training wheel with that hub. You'd have to have one or the other. Makes it a little bit difficult, so you don't tend to see them quite as much these days.
The other thing that's really changed the game with power meters over the last few years is how cheap and simple they've got. Something like the Stages meter that I've got on my bike here today that I use a lot. I've had a couple of Stages. I had one of the very early ones, and it was I wouldn't say it was problematic, but it had a few things that you had to work around to get it to work well, and it didn't work with all head units particularly well. The curse of the Garmin affected it a little bit, but I've got the latest generation one now, and I couldn't complain. I think it's pretty much about as basic an electronic device that you're going to get, really, once you've paired it to the head unit. And if you can work your head unit, you can work the power meter. And then basically I just get on and ride. It connects and away we go. It's as straightforward as the heart rate monitor. And then the second side of that is that they're quite cheap now. Now when I say cheap, they're not a bargain, but your $500 will buy you a really good one. You keep them for a long time. You don't wear them out particularly, and there's not much to do to them. And the information is great. It's really, really valuable stuff. I can't recommend them enough. It lets you train indoors without a smart trainer, just a normal trainer. It'll let you train indoors just like you do outdoors. It's not a number or a value that you have to get hung up on. You don't have to hit them every time, but just keeping those records is super powerful. It's great information as a coach on race days and race performance when you can match that up against heart rate data, especially in triathlons. There's so much you can learn during the event, but also afterwards. A lot of the time, having the power meter number in front of you is not always ideal when you're doing the event, but it's great to have data afterwards. You'll see a lot of pro cyclists move the head units away where they can't see them, or they tape over them, or you'll see sometimes they have them down under their seat, under their saddle, so that the rider can't see it at all. And not necessarily is it always great to be constantly measuring yourself, but having that measure afterwards or having that value, it's so useful.
Okay guys, there it is. Thanks for watching today. Hopefully that's given you a bit of information on what a power meter is and how it can be useful for you. As always, hit us up on all the socials. If you have any questions or comments, please go below. Like and share the video. It all helps us a lot. Thanks guys, and see you next time.